Happy Wednesday, guys! We are now halfway through the week, and that also means it's another Top 5 Wednesday video. So today I'm going to tell you guys my top 5 favorite authors that I have discovered this year. Hello everyone, it is Samantha. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. It is halfway through the week, which is always a nice feeling, and I hope the week has been going well for you. But regardless of that, today is, as I said, Wednesday, so that also means it's Top 5 Wednesday, and today's topic, as I said in the intro, is my top 5 favorite authors I have discovered this year. And I'm excited about this topic because I have discovered several authors that I can already tell are becoming new favorites. Some I have read more than one book, some I've only read one book, but I can already tell have a lot of promise, and I cannot wait to read the rest of their bibliography, and I can't wait to share them with you guys. But before I get started, as always, Ginger Reads Lainey, the creator of this group, and the Goodreads group will be linked down below. You can find the topics in the group, and hopefully you yourself will join in. So, let us get started, shall we? The first author I want to mention is Gail Carriger, the author of the Parasol Protectorate series. I read the first book, Soulless, back in February, I believe. No, January. Read it back in January, the very beginning of the year. And I'm already halfway through Changeless, book 2. But I really enjoy Gail Carriger as an author. She writes paranormal fantasy, but it's urban fantasy and also steampunk. So it takes place in the Victorian era, and there's steampunk elements, so it's kind of like an alternate history, paranormal elements because there's vampires and werewolves, and of course Alexia herself, who is also paranormal in that she doesn't have a soul, so she negates the abilities of werewolves and vampires. And the series is really interesting, it's really entertaining. The main character, Alexia, is a very strong-willed female. I absolutely love Alexia, she's totally sassy. The books are humorous, and they have a whole diverse range of characters. Like in book 2, a queer character is introduced, and she is fabulous. Madame LeFou is absolutely hilarious and sassy. So this series is quite enjoyable so far, and I cannot wait to read the rest of them after book 2 and continue on into, I think, Blameless, which is book 3. So very excited and definitely a new favorite. The next author I discovered this year is the wonderful John Scalzi, the author of Fuzzy Nation. So far this is the only one of his I have read. I do want to pick up Red Shirts and his Old Man War series, I think is what it's called. I've heard they're all really good, but Fuzzy Nation was excellent. It was humorous. I have compared it before to Firefly, which is a sci-fi show, and My Cousin Vinny. It's like if those two shows met, you would have Fuzzy Nation. It's a really good book. It's actually also a retelling of an original work that was written back in the 60s, I believe. I still want to read The Fuzzies, which is what the book is based on. It was actually a series of books. I still want to read those and see how those ones are, but so far I've only read John Scalzi's retelling of that story, and it was just as good, just as humorous, and I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet. The next author I want to mention is Jack White, the author of the Camelot Chronicles, and the first book is The Sky Stone. This is a really interesting series so far. It's an Arthurian retelling, but it's interesting that it is based primarily only on historical events, so it lacks fantasy elements. So it is based on actual events that have occurred in England. It starts with the time of the Romans, from basically the end of the Roman Empire, so it was right before the Romans ended up pulling out, and it follows Publius Varus and Caius Britannicus, and these two basically become the forefathers of the Camelot legends. They basically settle what you assume to later become Camelot. It's really interesting. You can see the way that he tells the story, how some of the events that transpire in this book could later take on a fantastical element. Stories are woven about the actual events, and they become more fantastical as time goes along. That's kind of how this story is set up. You can see how the events in this have become more fantastical as time passes, but it's really interesting, and I really like how he's basing it on actual historical events and figures, particularly since they actually believe recent evidence that the actual historical figure of Arthur lived during this time period, which would be about 500-600 AD. So really interesting series. He has a really beautiful way of writing. The story does move a little bit slow, definitely reads a little bit more like a classic, but it is very interesting. The fourth author I want to mention is Ishbel B., the author of The Singular and Extraordinary Tale of Mir and Goliath, which is the first book in the Peculiar Adventures of John Lovehart, Esquire. She is really into long titles. This is another Victorian paranormal historical retelling. It doesn't feature werewolves and vampires and things like that. More like the devil and magicians and things of that nature. But it's really interesting. It reminds me very much of Neil Gaiman, her style of storytelling. It's very creepy but very interesting. Just a really unique way of telling the story. It really kind of captivates your attention. It's kind of like an adult fairy tale almost. And at the time of filming, I'm actually about ready to start book 2, which is a contrary tale of the Butterfly Girl, so I'm hoping I'll enjoy it just as much as book 1. But she's definitely an interesting author, not one I have heard a lot about on book 2. But if you like Neil Gaiman's works, I think you'll enjoy them, and you You should also check her out as well. Okay, so author number 5 should come as no surprise if you've been following my channel all year long. And technically, I read the first book by her in December, but I finished it literally 2 days before New Year's. So I'm going to say I discovered her in the New Year since I had basically read her entire bibliography in 2015. And that is Robin Hobb, in case you couldn't guess from what I was just saying. So definitely Robin Hobb is probably my #1 author this year. She is definitely one of my all-time favorite authors now. She's right up there with Tolkien and Rowling and all of my other faves. Rothfuss. She's definitely up there. She is just a phenomenal author. I did do an author highlights video on her where I go over her writing and her bibliography and where to start, things of that nature. I'll link down below if you're curious about it. But she is fantastic. I am so glad I decided to pick up her books and delve into her world because they are amazing. I only have 2 books left to read in her Land of the Elderlings books because altogether there's, what, 15? And I have 2 left now. So she does have a couple of prequel and short story novels set in this world, and then an unrelated trilogy that I'll also read. But just in the Land of the Elderlings with Fitz and the Fool, I'm so sad to be done with these books. I'm probably going to finish all of Fitz and the Fool's books in November, so sad, but I'm also excited. But I am so glad I picked up her books this year. Definitely books that I will return to again and again and reread and reread. Like, I think I might actually start rereading as soon as I finish because I just will miss these characters so much. Alright guys, those are my top 5 authors I have discovered this year. You'll have to let me know what one of your favorite authors is from this year that you have just discovered. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!